Hey everybody, this is Atticus. Today I just want to kind of talk about the GOP primaries and how different factors has affected the leaderboards in that area, um, and how such as media coverage and campaign financing and things like that have really promoted certain candidates and hindered others. I pulled up a lot of statistics. I think the three things I kind of focused on here were campaign contributions, media coverage, and then I had a theory that the religious base might have a strong influence over the GOP primaries, but I think I was proven wrong. But we'll go into some of those statistics too. But anyway, I'm just going to start right off and jump right into the media coverage here. As you can see, I'm going to blow this up a little so maybe you can see it a little better. So this is just the share of media coverage from November 2010 to April 2011. So I think this is pretty early on when we were kind of first figuring out who the GOP candidates might be and how much media coverage they were getting. And as you can see, Sarah Palin was by far early on the most covered person in the media. I think that was more because it was a train wreck than anything else. And Donald Trump was kind of the same thing. As you can see, he had a large 40% over here in April. But then we jump into the people who are actually running for president, in the Republican primaries. And no surprise here, Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney are right up here in the top. Uh, and, and that's still the case today. Even though these statistics end in April, I think they actually get more of the media coverage because if you've been keeping up with the primaries, they've been having this little feud here lately. And then you get down to Michelle Bachmann back at this time was getting a lot of coverage. And finally down here at the bottom was uh, people who weren't quite as popular yet, Rick Perry, Rick Santorum, and of course Ron Paul down here at the bottom. Which the Ron Paul thing is kind of surprising to me since he ran for president in 2008. He figured he would have been talked about a little bit more, but I guess not. Overall, I think these stats haven't really changed as far as the order of who's popular in the media and not. I think Mitt Romney is getting a lot more coverage now. Probably Gingrich in a close second, followed by Santorum and Paul. So we'll go to the next chart. So this is up until the end of the year. So as late as December 31st, the number of campaign stories where the candidate was the lead news item. This first one is Mitt Romney. Of course, he's dominating dominating the media. He has been, followed by Newt Gingrich, and then over here we see Ron Paul with 27 and Rick Santorum with 21. I think this has kind of changed a little bit for Rick Santorum lately. I couldn't find any nice chart, but I was reading some statistics, and he's in the last few weeks he's come up quite a bit, leaving Ron Paul far behind, as always. And I think this is one of the most interesting charts here, is this is the percent of time that the candidate had the opportunity to speak in the GOP debates. And to me, the debates are head-to-head. I think they're kind of the most important thing because they're head-to-head. You can really compare the candidates. I know hardly anybody watches them, but I actually enjoy watching the debates and hearing one person versus the other without any kind of media bias or anything. It's like straight from the horse's mouth, I guess you can say. Anyway, so Romney, the media for some reason and the debaters have given him by far the most time to speak, followed by Gingrich, Paul, and Santorum. This is up until the end of December, and I think this has kind of changed recently because the Romney-Gingrich feud has really fueled their speaking time and drastically given them a lot more time than Paul and Santorum. And Santorum, if you watched the last Fox or the last CNN debate, he actually got a lot of speaking time. And as the crowd has thinned out, now that there's only four, everyone's gotten a little more time. But one interesting thing about this chart is this doesn't include the Florida debate where Ron Paul only had 89 seconds of time. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see this. Yeah, so he got 80, and two of the debates that aren't on here, Ron Paul spoke a total of like 3 minutes, so that would have brought his averages way down. And I got to give Santorum some credit because I think that despite the fact that he's been really ignored almost as much as Ron Paul has been ignored, recently he's really come up and made some noise in those western states like Nevada and Minnesota and things like that. But I think he still is going to have a hard time to compete with Mitt Romney. Gingrich, I think he's more of a, people like him for ratings, but Romney, the media seems to really be pushing him, the establishment Republican Party. They love this guy. He's all over the media and gets tons of debating time, a lot of time on shows on like Fox News and stuff like that. And we'll talk about why that might be later. So this is pretty interesting chart. So now we're gonna flip over to a website. This is this is like up to date, most current information as of pretty much this week. And this is one of my favorite websites to go and just track what's happening in the news. It's called journalism.org, and I definitely recommend you checking this website out. They have some really interesting stuff. But this is a very interesting chart to me, and it shows the volume of news coverage that each candidate has gotten. So Santorum, I say he's come up just a little bit, and Ron Paul is continually being ignored as usual. And this Gingrich and Romney are pretty much the establishment candidates. And Romney's getting over half of all media coverage. He's getting over, or 2/3, pretty much 66% of, or 3/4, 2/3 of all media coverage, 66%. And that's a ton. I mean, that's more than, that's what, 12, almost 12 times, 13 times more than Ron Paul, 11 times more than Santorum. How do you expect, as a candidate like Paul or Santorum, to even begin to compete with someone when someone's getting over 10 times more media coverage than you are? So that's a definite media bias. And then another interesting thing is this tone of news coverage. And as you can see, uh, the gray is negative and the red is positive. Gingrich is kind of getting slammed. Poor Obama is getting slammed too. Well, I think every president gets negative news coverage, so that's not surprising. But the other surprises are, I think, Santorum and Ron Paul are the only ones actually getting more positive news coverage than negative news coverage, despite that they get the least amount of news coverage. And Romney is almost equal, but still getting more negative. But this chart is much more telling. 66% is ridiculous, a ridiculous amount. No matter how much campaign money you have, that right there is what matters, because you can't pay. Like they'll do it. They're doing this coverage for free. It's not coming out of his campaign contributions or anything. This is all free publicity, and that's what really matters. And looking at all the statistics, I spent 2 days looking at statistics, and I was trying to find a pattern of popularity of a candidate and what factors played into that. And more than anything else, this is what the pattern is shown. The person with the most free media coverage is the person that is always ahead in the polls. No matter how much campaign dollars are dumped into the campaign, there'll be slight differences in ratings based on that, but overall, it's this free media coverage. So I think we have to do something about that. This right here should be equal. It should be 25% each. It should all get equal coverage, in my opinion, because most people aren't going to do the research and dive in and read these candidates' books or even watch their debates. And even if they do, we've already shown that that won't matter too much, because Romney's also getting the most time in the debates. And who are the debates hosted by? The networks. So it's no surprise here. The next thing I kind of want to look at is the campaign contributions. And of course, Barack Obama, he's destroying everyone else. He's a campaign fundraising machine. He has tons more than anyone else. And the next, of course, is Mitt Romney. He has a lot. Probably he has more than twice anyone else as far as campaign contributions. And you might say, hey, that's a good thing. That means people are giving their money to him. But we'll talk about where that money is coming from, interestingly enough. So who's really supporting these candidates, the people or the corporations? So very surprisingly, Ron Paul has raised the second most out of all the Republicans, even more than Newt Gingrich, which I thought was really interesting. And then Rick Santorum has the least. And he's also an outlier to me because Rick Santorum, despite not having a lot of media coverage and not having a lot of campaign funds, this has changed a little in very recent history. I read a couple articles where people have come out a couple $1 million at a time to donate to him. So he definitely has more than this is showing, but still, proportionately, he definitely has the least. And he's still been doing pretty good. I think he's a really good speaker. And I'm not personally a supporter of Santorum, but I do think he's doing a good job with his limited resources of getting his name out there and people listening to him. But the most interesting thing in this chart is where the money has come from. This says percent from small individuals, and that's basically from private people like me or you. How much of their campaign money is coming from regular people? Obama's doing pretty good, I think. Almost half of his coming from regular people, and considering how much money he's raised, that's pretty damn good. Now we look at Mitt Romney. Only 9% of his money has come from people, the people. That means 90%, 91% of this funding he has come from the corporations. 91%. So who do you think wants him to win? It's the corporations, not the people. Same with the media. Who controls the media? The corporations control the media. He gets the most media attention and the most campaign funding from corporations. There's something going on right there. It kind of sounds like I'm trying to say it's a conspiracy, but it's not. It's just the people in power want this guy in power. So they're doing everything they can. Ron Paul, he's the most impressive to me because over half of his almost $26 million has come directly from people like me and you. That's like $25 and $100 donations at a time. And to me, that says a lot about who wants Ron Paul to win. And the other 48%, I kind of dug into just to see what corporations or whatever was giving him money, and come to find out, it's a lot of small businesses or medium-sized businesses that are sole entrepreneurship. Whereas Mitt Romney, his 91% are coming from people like the major corporations, Fortune 500 companies, and the major ones. Whereas Ron Paul's kind of coming from things slightly larger than mom and pop shops. So individuals, the people want Ron Paul, it seems. We go down to Newt. Newt has quite a bit of money too, and actually I think he does really well too. I'm impressed that almost half of his comes from individuals donating to him, but the other half is large corporations donating to him. And then Santorum, it looks like he doesn't have a lot, so I don't think it's too interesting that most of his has come from corporate donations instead of individuals. I think that's due to his lack of popularity. Ron Paul just has a lot of individual donations because he has a very loyal following. So we'll move on. And this is a chart I put together myself that shows how much is corporate donations versus individual donations, and it's just a better way to look at this. And as you can see, almost all of Mitt Romney's donations has come from corporations. Very little, this red portion, has come from individuals. I mean, I think that is extremely telling about him. And if you look at it and you actually compare the red, how large the red is, that means on an individual basis, a private person basis, Ron Paul has raised more money per person. So if corporations weren't allowed to donate to you, and only individuals could, Ron Paul would have actually raised the most money. And almost all the other candidates would have raised more money on an individual basis than Mitt Romney. So I think that's just very telling about how powerful the corporations are when it comes to getting someone elected. This is the super PACs. Everybody's been talking about how important the super PACs are, and I think I would tend to agree, especially when you look at these numbers. This is Romney's super PAC. So in addition to what he's raised privately for his own campaign, his super PAC has almost $20 million extra dollars. Whereas no one else is even close, even half that. Even Gingrich, who has a pretty powerful super PAC, is still $10 million shy of him. And then you got Perry, who's not even in the race anymore, Perry and Huntsman. But then you got Ron Paul. So Ron Paul has 6 times less, or I'm sorry, Romney has 6 times more than Ron Paul in the super PAC, and so does Santorum. So that just says something. So on top of donating tons of money to Romney, his super PAC is very powerful also. I'm very suspect of Romney, as you can see. Just seeing where his campaign funding is coming from and how the media, such media bias, and he's still barely squeaking by and winning. I'm very suspect of Romney. So we'll move on here. And I told you, I talked about religion, or that I thought religion would be important. I just suspected that, especially due to um, Santorum doing fairly well. I kind of suspected that, hey, religion must be really big. People must be saying, voting based on that, despite all the other factors. And then I looked at this, and I was surprised at how equally divided it was. Like, it's very equally divided. No one's really winning out here. No surprise that Newt Gingrich has the lowest amount of support due to his background. But Romney actually has a very high support rate within the religious, and I think that's just simply due to the media coverage. Uh, People are starting to trust him because he's seen in the news every day. But which still brings me back to Santorum here. I'm still surprised at how apparently well he's done in some of these less populated, smaller states. Considering he is not heavily supported. Now, some of these other candidates, this is an older chart, but and it's changed slightly. I think Santorum's definitely up from here. He probably is right behind Romney now, but still, though, he's come a long way, and I'm not quite sure why. He is a very powerful speaker. He's definitely the most passionate of the speakers. I think that might have something to do with it. People respond a lot to passion. Unfortunately, I don't agree with a lot of what he's preaching, but still, I think it's still noteworthy and impressive. Uh, Also, Ron Paul and Santorum are both Roman Catholic. Romney's Mormon, and Gingrich is Christian. The Mormon thing doesn't seem to be hurting Romney like I thought it might, because this is white evangelical Christians. So it's not hurting him nearly as bad as I expected it might. And Ron Paul and Santorum being Roman Catholic, I don't think that helps or hurts. So they kind of stand out. So, and Gingrich having a bad history, having several wives and all his messy background, definitely I would hurts him with mainstream Christians. So it's no surprise to me that he's in current polls polling fourth out of four behind Santorum, Mitt Romney, and Ron Paul. So that was a surprise for me that religion doesn't appear to matter quite as much from the research I've done. I expected it to be a slightly bigger factor among Republicans. But anyway, all these stats have kind of shown me one thing. We'll go back to the images here, and the main thing is I think that it's a obvious thing that everyone talks about and everyone knows, but it's a corporate ball game. If you get the corporations behind someone, then then you do some damage because the corporations are. You may not know this, but actually, I've seen some statistics that show that only 7 corporations control all 99% of all the media coverage you receive. So basically, so 3 of those are kind of conservative. So basically, 99% of all the media coverage that we see are controlled by like 120 some odd executives, was the breakdown that I saw. And so that's not surprising that when you look at charts like this showing that 91% of Mitt Romney's uh, campaign dollars are coming from corporations, and on top of that, you have statistics like this. I'm sorry, let me find it. You have statistics like this showing that 66% of all media coverage is coming from Romney. Then, I mean, it's obvious to me that there's a corporate bias there promoting a certain campaign, and in this case, it's Mitt Romney. Honestly, my prediction is that Romney is going to take the. Unfortunately, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, I'm a Ron Paul supporter. If you've never read my blog or seen anything I put together, so I would like to think that Ron Paul would pull it out, but my prediction is that Romney is going to pull this out simply due to his wealth, the amount of money in his campaign, and the bias in his media coverage. I think if people were given a fair share of the knowledge and it wasn't so biased, that Ron Paul would come out with it. But he gets a lot of a bad rap. If you're a Ron Paul supporter, they kind of call you his legion, and they kind of make Ron Paul out to be crazy in the media. And Romney is supported by the establishment. I'm not going to even try to attempt to guess who the vice president will be at this point, but my guess is that Romney is going to pull it out, especially when it comes down to Super Tuesday, when the conservative states hit and all kind of vote at once. I think Romney's just going to run away with it. People also perceive him as the most electable versus Romney. Romney the most electable versus Obama. And at an individual basis, I disagree. But just like I said, due to the campaign dollars and the biased media coverage, that's true. We'll see. I think Ron Paul may end up running as an independent. I hope he does. If he doesn't, I'm still going to write him in. Gingrich will probably fade away. I think he has too much baggage to even be a VP or anything. And Santorum will probably be he'll be active in the campaigning. He'll most likely support and be an outgoing supporter of the Republican Party going forward, because he's a very passionate guy. I think people are going to like that, and he has a clean record. But overall, Romney's going to probably be the winner. He'll probably choose a VP, maybe an ethnic VP. I heard Rubio, which is the senator or something in Florida. I'm not sure his position. He might be governor. I can't remember offhand. In Florida, there were some rumors that he might choose him as his running mate, but we'll see. I have no idea. But anyway, that's my interesting statistics of the week, I guess. I put together. I'll post links to all where I got all this stuff from, and I might do a little commentary in my blog that you can check out. That's blogtruth.wordpress.com. And I strongly suggest that you start watching the debates and decide for yourself. Do a little research, read a few books. If you go to my blog, I have a link to some books I've been reading. You can read those. And definitely check out this website here, journalism.org. You can find all sorts of neat stuff on this website, so I definitely suggest that. Anyways, I appreciate you listening, and talk to you soon.